Hello, I'm Carrie Dara, and we want to welcome you to the Grow Cedar Valley webinar series. And this morning, we're going to be visiting about the SBA, the Small Business Administration Financial Assistance, and through that, some financial guidance moving through this COVID-19 crisis that's completely um, sidewinded to a point where people are trying to prepare for things that they never ever thought they had to before. And with me today, I have our two guests, Stacey Bentley, President and CEO of Community Bank and Trust. I also have Jason Walters, who's Vice President of Lincoln Savings Bank and specializes in government lending. He is a government lending manager. So between the two of them, we should have some good information to share. And first, I'll just let you introduce yourselves a little bit about what you're working on these days, what you've been working on, and the things that you want this audience to know as we go into some other questions. So Stacey, let's start with you.
Okay, sure. As I said, my name is Stacey Bentley with Community Bank and Trust, and I've been with the bank for over 20 years now. And so what has my week been like, or last couple of weeks? It's been a little hectic, and what we're trying to do is explain the programs that are out there and what are available to clients. And Jason's an expert, so he can tell you a little bit more about the details. But what I can tell you is that, while this isn't a financial crisis, it started as a health crisis. It has quickly become a problem where we need to support our government with the SBA programs that they're offering, support our clients, obviously, and try and get funds in people's hands any way we can. And whether that's through, we're talking about the government packages as well as just loan deferrals and things we can do for our clients. So that's what we've been working on now, and trying to keep our employees safe, but keep our clients safe and with funds available as well.
Absolutely. And through our conversation today, I know other questions will come up. And at the very end, though, I don't want to forget to have both of you leave your contact information, because I'm sure that what we're going to discuss will raise some questions that folks might have. So let's move on to you, Jason.
Good morning. I'm Jason Walters. I work for Lincoln Savings Bank. I've been with Lincoln for about 4 years. I've been in banking in general, lending for over 20 years. And yeah, I run the SBA department for Lincoln Savings Bank. Government guaranteed lending is a passion. Just love community banking, to be honest. Lots of crazy things have been going on here. First, to all of you listening, if you have family and friends that are currently going through tough times from a health perspective, you have my prayers and others. And I also, for all of you in the audience trying to seek answers for your own business or for the betterment of the community that you serve, I also want to say prayers for your efforts, because that's servant leadership.
Very good. Well, and I need to say, so Stacey and I go way back. Our paths have crossed numerous of times over the last couple decades. And Jason was in either my first or my second Cedar Valley Leadership Institute. So it's interesting how, as we continue to go through our careers, how our paths are going to continue to cross. So I mentioned this to you before we got started. Just specifically, I know there are several programs, resources out there for small businesses, some through the state and some through the federal government. And I don't know if you want to touch on any of those. I know specifically I have some questions on the PPP program, but are there other opportunities that folks should be paying attention to? Either one of you, or Jason, go ahead if you'd like.
Sure. We've heard some general parameters on something called the Main Street program. There's been $600 billion that have been earmarked for that program. I've read through some very basic specifics, but it's almost, in a way, a phase 2 for businesses. The PPP plan and the EIDL loan, disaster recovery, those were kind of that initial shot in the arm. That's what it's supposed to be. The Main Street program, from what I'm gathering, is going to be like that second loan opportunity for businesses to stabilize. I wish I had more to share on that right now. The best thing I can tell you to do, because it's all I'm doing, is Google it. We know it's coming. We've been told that there's additional information, and they're giving some very basic information about the program. But it could be very favorable for businesses that need loan funding quickly. So I won't get into those specifics, but please Google Main Street program, and it'll be very easy for you to find.
Well, and because you mentioned it, and because we talked about it before going on camera here, what should businesses do if they did apply for the PPP payroll protection program previously, but the program ran out of money before they were and it was allocated towards them. Should they reconnect with their banker now, ahead of the next approval, or wait until legislation passes? Either of you.
Well, we're hearing that funding will be available as soon as this week or tomorrow potentially. You know, you hear different things. I think that those of you that have relationships with your community bank, your community bankers, have those dialogues now. At this point, I would say that, well, during round one, I would say there's been a lot of confusion surrounding it, lots of questions and guidance that had to come out in order for all of us to service those applications as efficiently and effectively as we could. I'd say with round two, those bankers are now seasoned within the program and can probably get you better advice on exactly what's needed, with the exception of any changes to the program.
That was my question. Is the next round going to be the same, have the same criteria, the same parameters as the first round, do you think?
You know, I've heard things. For the most part, we think that it's going to be relatively the same. It's going to look the same, act the same, etc. I have heard things where instead of 250% of average monthly payroll, that would increase to 300% of average monthly payroll, but that's hearsay. If we know anything from the first go around, there's changes every day. And so we're prepared to deal with that if that occurs again. You know, the SBA, this program specifically, is very much a political tool. And so with all things political, there might be changes. Community bankers have lots of access through American Bankers Association, ICBA, NAGLE, many other sources. So your community banker that you work through is somebody that will likely be up on the changes as quickly as possible. And that's one thing that I would like to just state about community banking in general. Prior to this crisis, there was about 1,900 banks that did SBA loans, many of them not active. The latest count that I saw, that there was 5,900 banks participating in this program for PPP. To me, I'm just extremely proud of that, to be a community banker, because we very much have carried passion for each community that we're serving. And I just think it was a really cool thing to see.
Very good. Stacey,
Yeah,
so
and I can add a little bit onto that if I may. And so I happen to be on the American Bankers Association National Board, and I'm really glad to be involved in that because it kind of gives us a little insight for our community bankers here. And so one of the things that Jason's exactly right. What he's talking about is that we hope this doesn't become a political issue, and we want it to remain bipartisan. And I know that they do in Washington, D.C. as well. And we're having many conversations with the Treasury Department and the top officials of the SBA every day. Sometimes every hour, we're having meetings with them, and we're telling them what it is we need here in, Waterloo, Iowa, so to speak, or in the Grow Cedar Valley area, and what is it that our clients need and expect. And so Jason's right. We don't know what the changes will be for this program, but that shouldn't stop anyone from getting their information ready to be applied for this next round of funds. As he said, we're hoping that it could be as soon as tomorrow. It may be the end of the week. Talks are going on as we speak. They're meeting today at 4 o'clock, as a matter of fact, on this specific issue in DC. And maybe we could have an answer tomorrow morning. But in the meantime, what businesses should do is act like you're going ahead and applying. If your bank allows you to do that and allows you to actually fill out the application and submit it, do that now. If not, you could at least get the information ready to apply as soon as it's opened up, which like we said, could be tomorrow. So that's getting your payroll information together, your last 12 months of payroll information together, and getting that documentation ready, getting the application filled out if you can ahead of time, and talk, as Jason said, talk to your banker and let them know that you intend on applying. What we did find out in this last round was some banks chose, for different reasons, chose not to offer that. And so you don't want to be caught, if you're a small business out there, caught with that, where you're going to your bank and with all the information, they're saying you can't apply. So call your banker and talk to them, ask them if they're accepting applications or if they will be on this round. And if not, who should you go to and to continue this process, because it's very important and timely. This last money, which it was $349 billion, ran out in less than 2 weeks. And so as we've talked about, it could be there's talks that it could be 300 billion or more this time, but the money will go quickly. And so we want to make sure that we can help as many clients as we can as quickly as we can.
So I'm guessing the businesses that have applied in the past know that with a PPP, have to go through a that's correct. Is that correct for all of the SBA loans that they need to go work with their banker to get access to those?
No, PPP program, you do have to go through a banker. Banks chose to do that. The SBA asked if banks would do that and help them through this process, because they didn't have the resources to get this set out quickly enough. And so SBA from Washington came to the banks and said, would you guys help us with this and help us with the application process and getting the funding? And of course we wanted to and did, but that's not typical of how the process goes. So for the PPP program, yes, the payment protection, you would come to a bank. For the other loan programs that we talked about, and again, we don't know for sure on the Main Street unless Jason does how that one will be, but the EIDL loan, the economic loan that's out there, that's not a new loan. That's one for anybody. When there's a disaster declared in an area, people can go through that with an SBA. That one you do have to go through the SBA website to process. And Jason, have you heard about the Main Street one, if it'll be directly through a bank or directly through SBA? I have not.
No, I haven't heard that either. Reading through some various basics, I assume that it would be through your bank. But again, that's about all I have. I do, everything that I'm hearing, however, is stating that we should have more information this week about that program specifically. So again, for those of you listening, please Google Main Street Lending Program. The updates will come.
So if for a business who did not apply for the first round of the PPP, and knowing that there were several that didn't get an award, is it still prudent for them to apply whether they didn't get approved the first round or not?
Yes, and to be honest, sole proprietors were really put at a disadvantage. The funds went so quickly that by the time the second phase of the rollout came, sole proprietors were, 7 days behind every other applicant in terms of their business. And on top of that, there was limited guidance on what exactly a sole proprietor could apply for and what documentation they had to provide to their banker. So what I anticipate is seeing many more sole proprietors applying for the second round, because it is there and the funding is replenished.
Good.
And Carrie, we had, and I'm sure Jason's bank did too, but Community Bank and Trust, we had probably 40 applicants who didn't get in. The money stopped before the applications got in, and we were working 20 out of 24 hours a day trying to get them in as quickly as possible. And then of course they'd be rejected because of one reason or another. And so those applicants we are still working with to get everything ready to submit the next time, and so that they'll be first in line, and we want to act quickly as soon as we're told that. But then even if a business hasn't worked with their bank and applied, go like we said earlier, go ahead and call and see if you can get that paperwork started and talk to them, because timing is everything on this in this situation.
Right. If you were able to hear our first webinar, it was with our healthcare professionals in the area, and one of the things they wanted everyone to remember and to leave the webinar with was keep in touch with your healthcare provider, regardless of what you think is going on. It's just very, very important to keep in touch with your primary care physician and whoever else is on your healthcare team. I would think it would be very similar with your financial team, that you need to, as a small business, whether you meet the criteria for the PPP or another resource, it's still really important to keep in touch with your lender, your financial partner. Just as you go through this, there have to be more and more resources and opportunities that come up, because as everyone says, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So this is going to be going on for a while. So I'm just stressing the importance of staying in touch with your lender.
Yeah, and Carrie, that was my number one item to talk about, was communication. And so that's exactly it, is communicating. And so communicating, talking to your banker, your accountant, your attorney, talking to your partners that are helping you with your business, who you rely on or who you should be relying on to guide you through your businesses is who you should be talking to and giving them updates and telling them where you're at. Because besides consulting with those partners in your business, there's things that they're going to be asking you. And so I might be preaching to the choir on this, and everyone may know this, but really what we're looking for when you come in and talk to me, because even banks, even if you don't qualify for one of these loan programs, we can maybe help you if you're a client defer your payments. Offer some payment deferrals, offer some things. All banks will work with you on that. It's not just us. Any bank will, Jason's bank will, any bank will. If you talk to your lender and tell them what's going on, maybe there's some relief there that can happen. So I encourage that communication. But when you do that and you approach your lender for that, some things that it would be good if you had available to you is to talk about how the crisis has affected your business. What has your revenue been disrupted, and why? Were you forced to close? Where those sort of things happen? And then what do you see in the future? Is it going to be mild, where you're just closed for a little while and you think you can get back up and running and you have some resources to do that? Is it going to be a little bit more severe, where you've laid off employees and you've taken pay cuts and those sort of things? Or is it really going to be dramatic, where you have a liquidity crisis, and therefore what's going to happen is you're not even sure your business is going to be viable anymore? Hope that's not the case, but those are the conversations you should be having, is where in this stream of that, either the low or the high end, do you feel this is going to be? And so that communication piece is so critical right now, and the fact that you're analyzing that information on your own business. So
very good. Anything to add? I've got another question for you, but Jason, you want to add anything to that comment about just the relationship piece?
Yeah, actually a couple bullet points I wanted to just give out, if that's okay. Obviously PPP is the highest priority, and that to me is the short-term fix for 8 weeks of payroll, along with a few additional dollars for expenses. But I also just want to throw out a couple things. For those of you that have SBA loans currently, the legislation did come out and state that 6 months of principal and interest would be made on your behalf. And I just want to confirm, our bank, as well as others, have received guidance as of Thursday of last week on how to apply through the various Colson, the various programs that we have to go through in order to apply for those funds. So that is being worked out. So if you have an SBA loan, talk to your bank, talk to your banker, and they're probably going to give you the same piece of information that I just shared with you. The other thing, again, the midterm fix to me is going to be probably the Main Street program. But I also want to just highlight something that at some point we're going to get past this, and at some point these loans or these customers, these businesses are going to need some sort of permanent fix. And oftentimes maybe there's collateral that just isn't available, or maybe the repayment is a 4 or 5 year term, and that just isn't good right now because of the shock that revenues took from your business. And it's going to take time to get back up to speed. The SBA 7A program is a program that's used where a bank essentially can lend money without having to abide by all of the collateral rules that are typical within a conventional loan. That allows for two major things. First, it allows for a 10-year repayment. In most cases, that's non-real estate, which is a really big thing because you can reduce your debt service significantly. And the second piece of it is allowing for banks to issue working capital for your business. We all know that it is hard to stabilize your business without appropriate cash. So I will say SBA oftentimes has gotten a bad rap from time to time as far as it being complicated. I've been a commercial lender for a long time, and I used to feel that way. I'll just completely be honest. What I've learned is that the program is getting a bad rap. I think the most important thing for you to do is communicate through your banker and do some research on who the best banks are in order to get those applications through. Because if you do it in a organized fashion, the customer experience really isn't terribly bad. So
very good.
Just a few nuggets there. The last thing, if you apply for an SBA loan and it's originated before September 27th, you will also get 6 months of payments made on your behalf. So not only can you
September
afford
27th of last year?
September of
Coming up.
2020 coming up.
Okay, got it. Okay, very good. I did have a question that came in real quick. We've got a few more minutes and then we can have some summaries. But the question is, can a small business still apply for the economic injury disaster loan? This business looked a couple days ago and didn't find that the applications were being accepted. They didn't apply in the beginning because they didn't think they were going to need it. And now they didn't want to take from the business that needed it, but now they think they may. What do you either of you know about that? EIDL.
That program, those
Right.
funds have been exhausted as well.
Okay.
And I have not seen any communications on what that program is going to do in terms of a re-up in funding.
Okay.
My focus has been on PPP, knowing that that's likely where most of the funds are going to go.
Right. Okay, we've got just a couple more minutes. If both of you want to share with the audience, and Stacey, you did a good job of some things to keep in mind as we move forward. But if there are other thoughts that you want to leave with these folks about, being optimistic and being positive, and looking at your business through. We learned this last week with the Small Business Center that up at UNI. You need to start looking at your business through your customer, your consumer, your client's eyes, to make sure that as you move forward through this, you're going to be in a good position from a lending or from a financial standpoint. How else can you augment that feeling?
Yeah,
Stacey?
I think a couple things, and before I answer that specifically or give a couple cents, one thing that you all can do to help, even though maybe the funds will be here for the PPP program tomorrow or later this week, is contact your Congress people and tell them the importance. They want to hear from you, and I do that, and our staff does that frequently. Contact them and tell them the importance of these programs. And as Jason said, sometimes SBA gets a small or a bad rap on some things once in a while, but really they're doing an excellent job. The amount of loans that they put on their books in the first 36 hours was about $1 billion an hour. That was more than what they did in a whole year. So people, all organizations are stressed, and SBA is doing, in my opinion, a great job right now. Working with the volume and the dollars. I mean, over 1 million businesses got funded this first time. And so that's a big deal. But contact your Congress people and tell them what you need as a small business, because they do want to hear from you. So with that said, how do we go forward when this is over, and what do we do? And I know as business owners, you're looking at opportunities. This might be that you're able to buy a business or consolidate with another business or do something, operate differently. I think we're all going to learn differently on how we go forward on this, and how we all do business differently. Even these meetings done by Zoom rather than traveling or going places. Lots of board meetings that I'm on now, we're doing Zoom. It saves that travel time. I think we're more efficient. I think we will all look for those opportunities as we go forward, and we will be a better business and a better workplace when all of us, when this is over, and it will be over. And so we just need to be positioned when we get there of how do we turn the page. So
Absolutely. Thank you. How about you, Jason? Any last parting comments?
I would just say, have faith that your community banker is with you. The reason why we chose the profession is because we wanted to work for a small town bank. We wanted to work for our communities. That's what we do. Please come talk to us, talk to your banker, I should say, and be open and honest. And these programs will come, and we'll find solutions. I have a great deal of confidence in Iowa bankers.
Absolutely. And I can't thank you both enough. So again, we have Stacey Bentley, President and CEO of Community Bank and Trust, and Jason Walters, Vice President of Lincoln Savings Bank. We know how busy you are with your clients and with your teams. So the fact that you took some time out to share with us this morning is really important, and we appreciate it more than you know. And this will be posted on our Facebook page also, so people can see it. And as I mentioned, for contact information, I've listed the banks. Do they just ask for you? Or are there other people on your team that they should be asking for if they have questions? Or just call the number and ask for whoever can help?
But in my case, call me, call any, they can call any number, but certainly welcome to call me. My phone number that comes to my desk or my cell phone, we're working AB weeks. So I'm in the bank this week, but we'll be working from home next week. But my number is 319-433-6111. That's my office number that comes directly to me. I'd be glad to talk to you and get you with the right expert. I'm not, but I certainly can get you with someone who can talk to you. So, and Jason, you?
We every lender in our organization has booked several PPP loans, so we're all up on it. So that's the first thing, is if you have a Lincoln Savings Bank relationship, by all means, contact that banker. If you would like to contact me directly, 319-404-7330 is my cell phone.
Yep. And many of our viewers do have good relationships with their financial institutions. So the biggest takeaway is stay in touch with your team, with your financial team and your lender or your financial partner. If you don't have someone to answer these questions, and they're a good couple to start with. So again, thanks for joining us. Next Thursday, or this Thursday at 10:30, we'll be having our next webinar, and we'll be talking about mental health and getting through this crisis, and especially the culture in your workplace. So we've had some really good, relevant conversations. And again, Stacey and Jason, I can't thank you enough. So take care. Yep.
Thank you, Carrie, for what you're doing for us, for our community. So thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again.
Yep. Bye.